Welcome along, live stream, SeahawksDraftBlog.com. Rob Staton, Robbie Williams, Adam Nathan with you here to have a look at the game next week. Seattle against Denver, Monday Night Football. In exactly 7 days' time, we'll be, 2.5 hours away, Adam, from watching the game. Well, at least I don't know if you definitely are or not. I'm going to be sitting up till 1:30 in the morning to watch the Geno Smith-led Seattle Seahawks play the Russell Wilson-led Denver Broncos. It still feels kind of strange saying that. Are you staying up, Adam, first of all?
Yeah, I think we probably all need to have I was there when Geno started a primetime game for the Seattle Seahawks deliberately. I'll be watching that one and probably not many more after that. But, let's see how it goes. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really looking for... The timing of this is not particularly good for me because I have to go... This is very British, but I have to go to Plymouth on Saturday to cover a game, which is about 6 to 7 hours away from where I am. And then on the Tuesday, which is the day of when the game is actually taking place, because it starts at 1:30 in the morning over here, I have to go to Morecambe, which is the other end of the country, which is also a long way from my house. So I think by next Wednesday, I will have collapsed. So there we go. But I am kind of looking forward to the start of the season, Robbie, and I am looking forward to seeing how this game's going to go. And maybe to surprise a few people, I actually think the Seahawks have got a shot in this game. I think the fact that it's the first game of the season, that it's a primetime game, it's in Seattle, and this is all signs are this is going to be a different Seahawks defense. Whether it's any good or not remains to be seen, but a different one. So perhaps Russell Wilson will not be able to project what is actually going to be coming his way. And also he's got to settle into a new team for the first time in his pro career. So I actually think the Seahawks have got a puncher's chance in this game. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. If this is a game they're going to win, this is the opportunity to do it. Prime time at home. There's probably a little motivation on Pete's side to get a win against Russ. Can go the same way though. Russ probably has some revenge out, against the Seahawks. But it's a different beast playing in Seattle, and it has been in the past. Hopefully, they can get it back. But I feel like this is a game that they do have a puncher's chance. I'm not getting my hopes up, but I think this is a game that they could come out and maybe surprise some people. We'll see how they come out and play. I'm interested to see, all the starters getting a chance to go out there and play. Getting to see, if Kenneth Walker Jr. comes back, seeing the defense actually play and how they're going to play. I think they have a shot. I mean, like I said, it's a puncher's chance. We'll see what happens.
Adam, what do you think? How are you feeling about this game 7 days away? You're on mute.
That's the level of actual thoughts I had. That so good that I had to mute it twice. I think probably if you're going to play this game, it's the best time for Seattle. And I would imagine Pete Carroll was much happier with the schedule release than Russell Wilson was. I would have thought that Wilson would have loved this to be a sort of 105 Sunday game in week 6, week 7, when he's got his feet under the table a bit, and maybe the Seahawks are at 2-4. But we'll put it this way: if the Seahawks really struggle in this game, then that would be a worry for the season. I know rookie tackles or whatever, but under the lights, Monday Night Football, you would like to think that this is going to be the time where you'd see the Seahawks at their best. I would hope. And if I don't expect them to win, I don't think, but from a performance level, I think it's going to act as a fairly decent precursor as to what we might see the high watermark of the potential is this season. I would hope.
If you want to get a super chat in, we will jump to those questions. If you've got a question on the game, if you've got any draft-related questions, I think I will spend a little bit of time at the end talking about the draft, because we've just had a huge weekend of college football. And by the way, guys, I don't know if you watched any of the games, but there's some crazy games. I don't know if you see any of that Florida State LSU game yesterday, but wow. And then you've got things like North Carolina against Appalachian State, which was unbelievable. And some of the, even the Utah-Florida game was very exciting. So college football has got one over on the NFL by starting a week earlier and having some very exciting games. And I will talk a little bit about the quarterbacks, because look, at the end of the day, what's this season about? It's about finding the next quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks. That's what it's about. It's going to happen in college football. I don't know if it's going to be a veteran that they're going to trade for or anything. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about that. But I also want to just start with a game. We've got a super chat in here from The Snail, which is ironic because The Snail's avatar is a motorbike. Donkey's run D is garbage. Seahawks will get 300 rushing yards. Still might lose, though, laugh out loud. So I tend to agree with you to an extent, Adam, that I think when the schedule came out, Pete Carroll probably would have thought this is the best time to play them. And this is why the NFL has done this. I think there was something that was mentioned when the schedule was announced, that the NFL really regretted not putting the Tampa Bay New England game earlier in the schedule, because they wanted Tom Brady going to play New England to be a bit of a who knows what's going to happen. Because it was later in the season, it was a bit more predictable that New England were going to lose that game and that Tom Brady was going to win. And they wanted to avoid all of that. If the Seahawks are bad, this could be a walkover in 10 weeks' time. In week 1, it could be a close game. So I agree with you on that. What I do think, though, is as the preseason's gone on and the Seahawks have struggled on special teams, basic things. Like it's one thing to not play well in preseason. It's another for your tackling to be trash, for your special teams to be no good, for your kicker to miss another field goal, and to have a few injuries. And I think he's a little bit concerned. And now I think it becomes, Robbie, a bit of a different game for Seattle, because I think Pete Carroll has put a big ring around this. I cannot lose this game. If there's one game I cannot lose, I cannot be seen to be hammered by Russell Wilson in our own backyard at Lumen Field, with him playing let Russ cook and me playing my brand of football with Geno Smith. If this ends up being a blowout, it reflects incredibly badly on Pete Carroll. It puts a lot of pressure on him and the Seahawks after 1 week of the season, and this could be the worst game to have first up. Alternatively, if they win, it's the best game. And that's what makes it very, very intriguing. Whether it's a blowout, whether it's a close win, whether the Seahawks blow out the Broncos, it's going to be fascinating, and there's going to be connotations to this game and an impact for the rest of the season, I think, for both teams.
Yeah, the NFL did a great job of scheduling this for the exact reasons that you said. And, playing in a primetime game at home in Seattle, Monday Night Football, Pete definitely probably got this circle that's like, this is a must win. And it sets the tone for the rest of the season. But really, it's going to be that first half when they come out, all fired up and ready to play. Let's see how they settle down, coming into that second half and really let the game come to them. Because you know what Russ can do. And what, Pete knows how Russ plays. So if he can get out ahead early and then control that, I think that's really where it's going to come down. We have an opportunity to really win the football game. But ultimately coming down to the season just looks ugly. I was trying to go through the schedule and try to predict how many wins we could get, and I don't see a lot. So we got to get this one if we're really wanting to do it.
Robbie, a couple of people mentioned this in the comment section. You are very echoey. I don't think your mic's turned on. So if you can maybe have a play around with that, and we'll try and get your audio sorted out. Adam, with regards to the game again and the return of Russell Wilson, it's just such a fascinating thing. It's how interesting is it going to be to see Russell Wilson play in a team with a coach that he is presumably aligned with. It's just signed a big extension. Obviously believes in the coach's philosophy, and they're aligned. They have an offensive-minded head coach. I'm guessing they're going to let Russ do what Russ wants to do. He's gone to Denver, I imagine, because he's been given the same kind of power as Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes and quarterbacks like that, which is what he's always craved in Seattle. And seeing how that works against Seattle, against his old team, is going to be very interesting.
I'm not sure how your sort of listeners and viewers feel about when I transcend to like a soccer analogy, but it feels very much to me like when you've got this powerhouse attacking top class team that are going to come, and the way we're going to try and win the game is to keep 10 men behind the ball at all times, maybe nick a goal on the counter attack, and basically go into do not lose mode. And you get to a point where it's quite hard to work out who deserves to win the game, because only one team is trying to win, but the team that's trying to not lose manages to get it over the line with some heroic effort. And I think, NFL players talk all the time like there's no style points in winning. And I think that's a bit trite sometimes. I think that performances can be indicative of future results. I think there's more than enough statistics that would suggest that if you're playing well, eventually you will win. But I think this is one of those games where the style points just do not count for anything. My concerns about Geno Smith going forward for the season is that he's basically the do not lose quarterback. We haven't seen him in a position where he has to score. And I think when we are in a position where Geno has to score, we're probably going to have a problem, because I'm not sure he's up to that. In this game, I think the whole purpose of what Carroll will do is make it that we don't have to score. We just kind of have to, defend our goal, to go back to the initial analogy. So whilst I think, if you put a game on a neutral field in the middle of October, we might get our backsides handed to us. I think the structure in which they're going to play, and they will get the buy-in from the team, because it is week one. So there's nothing really to go against it, to say, it's not like you've lost 4 in a row playing away where you think, oh, I'm not sure if this is working, coach. Like, I'm not. Yeah, you would like to think that all the players will go in fully bought into what they're doing, and that's why I think it becomes a bit of a wild card game for Seattle. And I think Denver will be much more nervous going into this than we will, and I wonder if we can capitalize on that.
I just wonder a little bit. I don't know if Robbie's if he's feeling confident about his mic. I'm sure he'll give us a thumbs up. If he's, are you cool?
Yeah, I just want to test it out. Can you guys hear me better?
That's a lot better. It's a lot better. Fantastic.
Apologies.
What I was just going to say, Robbie, is I think that Russell Wilson and Denver's approach to this will be, we need to score quickly. We need to, almost the antithesis of the Pete Carroll, you can't win in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter. I think Russell Wilson's going to go, we're going to go and win this in the first quarter, because if they get 14-0, 17-0, 17-3, get a couple of scores up, then the Seahawks have to chase the game, and it puts, it takes away the run a little bit, doesn't it? I mean, they can try and stick with the run, but if you are defending a 2-score lead and you can just load up the box and say, okay, Geno Smith, you pass your way back into this game. We're going to take away the run. We're going to commit extra bodies up, even more than usual, to stop the run. We're going to take away that threat, and we're going to make Geno Smith beat us with his arm. And I just don't think he's going to do it. So I think that's what Denver's approach is going to be. We are going to try and score quickly. We're going to up tempo. I bet Russ just gets in there. It's really quick tempo. It's almost like a Big 12 style offense type thing, getting up to the line, lots of throws, moving it quickly, not letting Seattle settle. And I think what Seattle's going to do, Robbie, to try and stymie that and prevent them from doing what they want, is I think they're going to blitz like crazy. I think they're going to come after Russell Wilson. I think that's perhaps been, so apart from when you just line up an absolute legend like Aaron Donald in front of him, I think sometimes when there's been a lot of pressure on Russ, that's when he's trying to scramble away, tries to extend plays. He's a bit gun shy sometimes. We've seen when you get after him, if he feels pressured and if you've taken the reins off him and he's suddenly throwing it all the time, you can force him into mistakes. I think Seattle's going to come after him. It'll be disappointing to me if they do it any other way, Robbie, because I think if they sit back and try and play coverage against Russell Wilson and Denver, they'll just pick them apart. I think they've got to come after them. I think we're going to see Jamal Adams in the backfield. I think we're going to see linebackers flying into the backfield. I think we're going to see cornerbacks sent. I think it's going to come from every single angle, pressure. And I think that might play, if Denver are trying to play up tempo and quick, and Wilson's getting blitzed, and it's not working for Denver, that's Seattle's key to win. That is their opportunity to make it a difficult game for Russ. And if it is, let's say, a one-score game or a close game getting up to halftime, and if Seattle can then establish the runners off the back of that, then they've got a chance to win this game.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. But keep in mind, as much as they have Russell Wilson and they're excited about that and want to let Russ cook, they also have a beast of a running back in Javonte Williams. And they're probably going to run the ball. They're probably going to mix it up a little bit, maybe even some screen. Well, Russ doesn't really show very good screen passes, but you know what I mean? Like that, some outside runs, attacking the inside. I could see them really getting after it. I mean, attacking our linebackers and try to get to that second level and being a thing. But, exactly what you just said, I would send the house all day. After Russ, that's what I would do, and go for broke on this game, because you need to come out with a W on this one, and Pete knows that. At the same time, they're going to attack our corners, depending on who's starting. I mean, at this point, I don't even know who's actually going to be starting for us. It's going to be a wild game to see kind of how it plays out. And that, like I said, that first half will be, I think, going to be a little crazy, and then settle down again and kind of in that second half. And yeah. I don't think I agree with you more. Like if you're gonna go after him. But I could see Denver lining up everybody in the box and trying to make Geno beat them because Geno ain't gonna do it. And that's where they're gonna come in and stifle our run, and they're gonna have a hard time getting rhythm going, and they're gonna have to get some quick passes out to DK and Lockett to really move the ball. I think it's gonna be challenging. It's gonna be a challenging game.
Yeah, and I was having a look actually because I don't know what you guys feel. I mean, look, I'm not for a second saying that Denver are a bad team. They're not a bad team. I do wonder a little bit though, Adam, whether they've been pumped up a little bit too much just because they've traded for a quarterback. I mean, you look at the roster, it's fine, I suppose. I mean, we're looking at the receivers there. There's not, and look, listen, I am not invested in Seattle winning this game. Listen, I don't really care. I just want to get into the 2023 draft. I'm going to watch every game, and yes, we'll be staying up very late to watch all of those games, but I'm not going to feel particularly emotional either way, whether the team wins or loses this year. I'm thinking bigger picture with this, and I suspect there's going to be a lot of fans feeling that way. So I don't feel like I'm tempting fate in any way whatsoever to say that KJ Hamler, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton don't really fill me with dread in terms of an offense. I don't think Wilson has that. Like, for example, we've just lost Adam, so we'll see if he keeps bobbing in and out. I think he's got a problem with his connection. But I'll throw this to you, Robbie. He doesn't have, like, for example, the Raiders went out and traded for Devontae Adams. He doesn't have, like, Miami go and get Tyreek Hill. He doesn't have those sort of fantastic, San Diego, LA Chargers have invested a lot in their receivers, obviously, to retain their receivers. And we've seen teams trade and bring in big weapons or draft big weapons. He doesn't really have that. He's inheriting a group that so far have got a lot to prove. Jerry Jeudy's got a heck of a lot to prove. Cortland Sutton's been fine. He's a decent player, but he's not an otherworldly receiver like we've seen some of these guys getting paid this year. And KJ Hamler's fine. At tight end, they don't have that. They've got Albert O, and they've lost Noah Fant, so they don't have those great weapons there. Their offensive line looks fine. It's nothing particularly amazing. And then in terms of their pass rush, yeah, they've got Randy Gregory to play alongside Bradley Chubb, and that's good. I don't personally feel like they've got that true fantastic pass rusher in the same way that Seattle hasn't. Defensive backs, they've invested a high pick in Patrick Surtain. They've spent a lot on Justin Simmons. At linebacker, fine. But do you see what I mean? I'm not looking at this roster for Denver. We've got Adam back here. I'm looking at this roster for Denver, and I'm not seeing a team, for me personally, that looks like this team's primed for a Super Bowl. And Russell Wilson's got a lot to prove. He's come off his first injury hit season in his career. And how he bounces back from that, having also the pressure of making this trade work, is going to be interesting too. You can either of you shoot for this because Adam's been in and out, so he's missed what I just said.
Sorry about that. The whole game feels almost like a plot of a high school film, doesn't it? Like high school American football film where the baddies are coming into town against the home team, and they've got all the talent, but we're just gonna have to try and do it, and they've got the superstar player. I think there are a lot of question marks about Denver, and I think they've invested an awful lot in speculative success. I mean, Wilson's obviously got this mega contract that Mark Rodgers, I think, must be licking his lips that he's negotiated. Not that I wouldn't have done it in Seattle; I probably would have done it. But I think there's almost been like Denver have been written into the playoffs already, and it wouldn't stun me if they came third in their division. So whilst they are probably going to be favorites. I think they're 6.5 point favorites at the minute. If I was that way inclined as a gambler, I think I might have a bit of action on that because I don't know. I think you're right. It does seem a little bit like a foregone conclusion, which I think is slightly disrespectful to Seattle. And I say that as someone that's pretty down on the team on a regular basis.
I'd take it a step further, Adam and Robbie. I wonder if they're the fourth best team in the division because you've got the Chiefs who have still got Patrick Mahomes, and with Patrick Mahomes, you would expect them to perform quite well. I know they've lost Tyreek Hill. They still have some weapons, and Mahomes is Mahomes. The Chargers have not really delivered on their promise, have they? But they have a loaded roster with a young quarterback. I didn't realize that Justin Herbert threw 15 interceptions last year, but he's got to get that number down. But, obviously very talented, and they could be a force. And then you've got the Raiders, who I think, it's sort of easy to assume the Raiders are the fourth team, but they've just traded for Devontae Adams, and Devontae Adams is like BFFs with Derek Carr. You know, they like live next door to each other. They played together in college, so they've already got some chemistry there. When you add a player like Devontae Adams, was widely regarded as the best receiver in the NFL in a league that really places receivers at a high point these days. And, you know, they have some pieces elsewhere. They are a team in transition. They've got Josh McDaniels as head coach, his first year. But he may be all the better for having had the experience at Denver, gone away for a number of years, and now he's back in Las Vegas. And you know, they've brought in some other pieces in free agency as well. So I don't think, Robbie, it's beyond the realms of possibility that Denver could be the fourth team in the AFC West. I don't think that's such a ridiculous thing that could happen there.
No, I agree. And I'll be the first to admit, I'm sure that I see some Denver Bronco fans on here, and I'll be the first to admit, I don't really follow their team all that well, so I don't know their roster extremely well, but I'll tell you, I like what the Chargers did this offseason. They went and got Khalil Mack, pair up with Joey Bosa. I tell you, that's a wrecking crew right there. I like what they're doing on defense. I think this is a team, the Chargers, I think are going to take a step up. I don't think Russ put himself in a good position by saying he wants to go to Denver. I mean, this is a loaded AFC, and it's going to be challenging. I mean, I could see it flip all around. I mean, it just kind of depends on how it plays out. And I will say, you said something about Courtland Sutton. I think that guy's right. This is kind of, I think, in my opinion, a make or break for him. He's had kind of terrible quarterbacks throwing for him, and he has an opportunity now with Russ to really take off. Same thing with Jerry Jeudy, but I think they do have the wide receiver core in place if they had the right quarterback. And I think maybe that's what they're banking on with Russ. So it's interesting to see how they're going to play. Again, I'm more worried, in my opinion, about Javonte Williams just because he's an absolute stud. So, but yeah, I could see Broncos finishing, fourth in their division. I could see him finishing first in their division. It really just depends on how things play out. But if I'm gonna bet on anything right now, I'm putting my money on the Chargers because I like what they've done.
I mean, just to run through, this is not a Broncos stream, but this is Denver's run to start the season. So they play in Seattle, then they host the Texans. So, Broncos fans will expect it to be 2-0. But then after that, they host the 49ers, which is not a given. I think 49ers fans are a little bit overconfident, to say the least, because I was listening to something that they said, because Seattle plays San Francisco week 2, and they fully expect to be 2-0. That is despite Trey Lance not really giving anybody any reason to believe that he's capable of leading a team to 2-0, but they expect to be there 2-0, and then they'll be playing Denver. And then the Denver Broncos play at the Raiders, they host the Colts, and then they go to the Chargers. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that they have a losing record after that run. So we will see. And of course, from the Seahawks point of view, I have no beef against Denver. I have no real. I know that old Seahawks fans from yesteryear will remember them being division rivals. I do not have that in my life, so I do not care, and I have no ill feeling. In fact, I'm rather grateful that the Denver Broncos performed so poorly in the Super Bowl, which has allowed us as Seahawks fans to actually witness the team winning a title in our lifetimes. So that is very, very good. Back to the Seahawks. So
just quickly, Rob, sorry. It's amazing. It's amazing like where hubris will get you in sport, isn't it? Because if anything sums up the clash between Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson, it is hubris. And two people, at 71 and 33, plus or minus a year or two, both of them will probably look at the next 2 or 3 years as this is when I really need to win. And hubris has led Pete Carroll to having Geno Smith as a starting quarterback and in like a rebuild mode. And it's put Russell Wilson in probably the hardest division in the sport altogether, probably because he thinks he's so good. And maybe he is. But he's basically said, take me out of where I am because I think I'm this good and I'd like to be in the toughest possible situation. And it just can be a real lesson. We'll see how it goes in the next couple of years. It's going to be hard to say who's won out of this battle. But my instinct is that they might both have ended up losing here. And they both could look at this summer or March 2022 and think, I wonder if I could have just approached that slightly differently. And it'll be interesting to talk about it in a couple of years. It's certainly going to make it for a great story.
Adam, you have this real knack for just uncovering an absolute perler, as we would say over here. Just a great point. It's very easy to sort of look at the hubris with Pete Carroll. I want to do things my way. I'll never change. I'm never going to retire. And now he's been left for Geno Smith. But it is worth sort of contemplating that Russell Wilson has left from an eminently winnable NFC conference to go and play in the AFC, and not only go to the AFC, but go to the AFC in the division that is loaded within the conference. And you do wonder whether or not Russell Wilson's just tied himself to a team that are going to find it extremely difficult to win a Super Bowl over the next few years, especially given they've now committed so much money to him and so much draft stock, which means they will not be able to properly improve their team without getting extremely creative, which they may well do, because we've seen teams do it, aka the Rams, who just seem to find money from behind the couch and keep spending, and trading. So maybe Denver will do a bit of that to ensure that Russell Wilson can win one more Super Bowl. But it might be that neither of them come out of this trade as a winner. It might be that both come away as losers, but that will really depend on what the Seahawks do in the draft next year. And I do want to talk a bit about that. To go back to the Seahawks, Robbie, as much as I will be extremely underwhelmed, my whelm level will be low when we are this time next week. I'll almost be cursing my luck that I've got to stay up late to watch it rather than just watching it at 9 o'clock on Sunday night. But of the players that are going to be playing for Seattle, who are you most interested to see?
I really want to see how the corners play. I'm pretty excited about Kobe Bryant and Tariq Woolen, but I'm also excited to see if Kenneth Walker gets to play. Let's see him get some touches and see how he gets to run the football. And then just our tackles. I mean, I think we, Abraham Lucas is an absolute steal at right tackle, and I'm excited to see Charles Cross play a whole game and against some real first round talent. And I just kind of mostly the rookies, really, just to see how those guys play. I mean, and it's crazy that we look at our roster and it wasn't that long ago when, we would draft these players and be like, I don't even know if they'll make the team, because our depth was so good on the roster. And now it's like we kept like 7 of our 9 draft picks or something like that. I mean, it's crazy. So I'm most interested to see the rookies play.
Adam, same question. Who are you looking forward to seeing?
Is Kenneth Walker going to play? I thought he kind of had this mystery injury that no one had quite gotten to the bottom of.
Nobody knows.
I'm not sure.
Pete Carroll will not divulge any. I mean, he may well do. I guess he'll be speaking to the media on Wednesday. I know they're practicing today, but he won't do the Monday press conference because it's a Monday night game. So I think it'll probably be Wednesday when we hear from him, or Tuesday. And he may divulge whether he's going to play. They have to do an injury report, so I think we'll probably know then. If he's not practicing, I doubt he'll play.
Obviously, you've got the rookie tackles that I'm looking forward to seeing them play, just to see how they play, really. I'm not expecting much because I think it would be quite harsh to expect anything from rookie tackles. History would suggest that they need some time to bed in, and now's as good a time as any to do that. And I think it's quite a big game for Rashad Penny as well. It's probably the first time in his career that he is Seattle's undoubted number one going into, well, certainly the season, maybe even a game, because even at the back end of last year, it was like, well, when Chris Carson's back, then we'll see what happens with Penny. Whereas he's got a contract now, he's been paid, a decent clip for what he's done over his course of 4 years. So I think I'm interested to see how he plays and how he steps up, because basically for the first time in his career, he's having to play his draft position.
I would go with Rashad Penny as well, because he ended the season playing like the best running back in the NFL. And now it's, okay, can you do that again when you're not running down the contract and all of a sudden it matters? You've got your year's extension. He's got paid a decent chunk of money for this one season, and they've also drafted somebody who could be your replacement. So can he go and do it again? And I'm very interested to see that, especially if Kenneth Walker is not going to play. I want to see if Rashad Penny can get out there and run the ball well. I mean, whether Denver allow that to happen, they may just slam down the door and say, we are not going to let you run and we're going to throw it and take you out of the game. So you're going to have to do the same. But Rashad Penny's the one that I would like to watch the most as well. I want to talk a little bit of draft. This is only going to be like a 40-minute stream. So I want to talk a bit of draft as well. But I want to get a prediction from everybody before we pivot to that. So, Robbie, what is your prediction for the Denver game?
Well, the homer in me wants to say the Seahawks are going to pull this off. I'm going to actually say, though, realistically, I think it's probably going to be 27-17 Broncos.
27-17 Broncos. Adam, what are you going to go for?
I think I said on the last time we were on that most Seahawks games are going to come down to that coin toss play at the end, and whether Geno Smith can pull it off versus the success that Russell Wilson had doing it. So I think someone's going to win 23-17 or 20-17. And I know it's a real fence-sitting thing, but let's say Geno won't get it done on this coin toss play. And I think instead of it being 24-20 to Seattle, it'll be 20-17 to Denver.
I am going to predict a Seahawks win just because I want to be different. And also, I do think they have a puncher's chance because it's week 1. I think if this was week 6, I'd be giving Denver a stomping win. But I'm going to say that the Seahawks make a stop on defense, possibly at some like big sack in the fourth quarter, which will win the game. And I am going to go, it'll be something stupid like 23-22. I think there's just been, over the years, Pete Carroll has just found a way, and he's sometimes he has been very lucky. You think like the Fail Mary and stuff like that. There have been some classic moments. To a certain extent, the tip was quite fortunate, wasn't it? I mean, the Seahawks came that close to losing that game and had no business losing that game, and they would have never had the Super Bowl, and they would have just had, and it has been unlucky in certain games as well. But there just seems to be a bit of lucky magic about Pete Carroll sometimes. And I just wonder if it's going to rear its head again in this. I don't think the Seahawks are going to win many games this year, but I think this might be one. So we will see who is right in a week's time.
They need to win 3. This one and the 2 against the 49ers. And
yes. Yes. I sign me up to that right now. That would be perfect. Because imagine being able to go, we were really crap and we still beat the Niners twice. That would be so much fun. It'd be just perfect. And then you get the draft position, but you still beat the Niners twice. To a certain extent, beating Denver and having a little bit of momentum to take into the Niners game would also be nice. Because I do, as much as I am all in on the draft position, I do want to beat the Niners at every opportunity. The Snail's got in touch again. Thank you to the Snail, who's been very generous with the Super Chats tonight. If anybody has a Super Chat, we are going to wrap up in about 8 minutes. So send them in and we'll get to your questions. We'll do all Super Chats before we finish, but if there are none, we'll finish in about 8 minutes. This one says, any chance Cam Ward becomes a first-round prospect? Not a player that I have watched, frankly, not a player that I have watched at all. And
WSU quarterback?
Yeah. So the problem is that we've had a lot of this. Like people were saying, Robbie, that Michael Penix. Someone said to me, Michael Penix Jr. needs to be on the watch list off the back of a performance against Kent State. This was on the blog the other day, and I said to him, "Well, look, Michael Penix Jr. had 4 years at Indiana. He had 4 touchdowns and 7 interceptions before getting a separated shoulder a year ago. He has 2 ACLs, and he didn't really ever do anything at Indiana. And now he's beating Kent State. We're talking about we need to put him on a draft watch list. I mean, that we have to be. I don't want to be mean to any of the local teams in Washington, but we don't need to start, putting them in sort of watch lists and stuff. I've not watched Cam Ward. He might be much better than I think, but I'd be very surprised if a player like that suddenly just emerges. And I know players do emerge, but in that manner, especially when there's a change of coach and stuff. And if, unless I'm mistaken, he's not an offensive-minded coach. Is he at Washington State now? I think he was the defensive guy.
I don't know who took over.
My apologies if I've got that completely wrong. So I'd be a little bit surprised. We've got this one here from Slacky Hero. Will Levis, week 1 tape a bit shaky. Thoughts? Well, I've watched every snap that he had in that game, and I don't think it was that shaky. I think it was...
His offensive line is shaky.
It was... that's the thing. Like, the offensive line was absolutely terrible. I mean, they had...
Garbage.
It was truly awful. He had no protection, and that is a concern, because if it's bad against Miami, Ohio, what's it going to be like against Florida and some of these SEC teams? They're playing Florida next week. So that is a little bit of concern. The interception looked like a miscommunication to me. He threw it to the right front corner of the end zone, and the tight end threw his arms up in the air afterwards as if to go, oh, whoa, what's happening here? Because he was I think he ran a slightly different route. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm making an excuse for Will Levis, but that was, when you see a tight end go, oh no, it seems like something's gone wrong there. And that's not the kind of play that Will Levis generally makes. And I think there was another play that was a little bit shaky as well. I think it was like a dropped chance, maybe a chance for another interception there. But I mean, my word, just look at what he does well. The way he plants his feet to throw with a great base. He's got a flick of Aaron Rodgers has got that flick of a wrist, and the ball just shoots out. He threw one pass downfield to the left touchline, which just came out like an absolute laser downfield. He's very athletic. He's mobile. He's creative. I mean, just look at the final touchdown that he had, where he had to fit it into this really tight window. It was almost like the interception. The defender was right there, and he's just throwing that little bit more into it to arm it into the receiver for another touchdown. I think he is a terrific player. I know that we're in this sort of period now where everybody picks a side and has to go to war with my guy is this guy, and therefore I have to spend time slagging off this other guy who's not on my team. But I think just Will Levis is a fantastic player. If you're expecting him to play flawless football for every single game between now and the end of the season whilst playing for Kentucky behind that offensive line, it ain't going to happen. I've seen enough from the guy to think that he can be really good. And I didn't think his tape was that shaky.
And his wide receivers dropped a lot of balls too.
Yeah, there were drops.
I watched that game and I agree. I think he's fantastic.
Rob, for those of us that are sort of maybe not as attuned to what we should be looking for in college quarterbacks, I noticed on one of your videos that I heard on a podcast that I think it was Anthony Richardson, you said moved his running back at the line of scrimmage. He knew the protections and he moved his running back from left to right or right to left in order to cover the protection. Are there certain things that when you're watching a quarterback in a game where he's probably overmatched against the opposition that you can look at and say, that's what I'm looking for, and that's definitely what I'm not looking for? Or is it not quite as simplistic as that?
Yeah. Do you know what? It's really easy. And it's not difficult at all. Really, you just sort of watch a guy, and are they elevating their team? So in the case of somebody like Will Levis, Kentucky have done absolutely nothing for years, and he comes on the scene and they, set franchise records and win a really good bowl game and get there. And you think, first of all, is the team improving because of him? Yes, it is. The great thing for Anthony Richardson about me, it's have they mastered the offense? Do they show that they have really studied this, that they are a student of that offense, and they get everybody lined up so that everybody's ready? Okay, we're all set, but now we're going to snap the ball and go. There are so many quarterbacks in college football who you just see them sort of slightly gormlessly looking at the sideline, waiting for the coach to tell them what protection to do, what the defense is doing. They're not even reading. They're just they'll say the defense is showing this. This is where you need to throw the ball. This is your first option. This is your second option. And they turn around and they snap the ball. So all the hard work is done for them. It was nice to see Anthony Richardson go, no, you're in the wrong spot. You come over here. And you're thinking, this is his first start. And then the great thing about Anthony Richardson, he snaps the ball. He'll do a little misdirection. He'll go on a play action. He'll set. I mean, he just looks so calm. I mean, he just got into his set, turns around, even when there was pressure coming in, delivers the football. There was no sort of, oh my God, I'm under pressure, I'm going to set off. Like even Russell Wilson did that. The pressure would be coming, I'm going to bail out the pocket, I need to scramble, I need to extend this play right away. Anthony Richardson was just like, gets back, drops, sets, very calm, good release, gets it out nice and quickly on time, and that's it. And it's just a collection of things. Did they get the ball out on time? Is it generally accurate? Can they throw the ball downfield? Can they improvise when the play breaks down? Can they make plays with their legs? Because increasingly in the NFL, you are going to need to move around, even if you're not necessarily looking for Lamar Jackson with every quarterback, but you generally don't want a Ryan Mallett type who just can't move. You do need some elusive qualities. And if they haven't got it, like Mac Jones, they have got to be really in tune with their timing, and they've got to throw 40 touchdowns like he did and lead his team towards the national championship. So, there are a collection of things. It's all really simple. Really anybody can watch quarterbacks and go, he's got it. He can do it. I would just urge everybody to go and watch Tyler Van Dyke, for example. He played he came in a few games into the season last year, and straight away off the bat, you could see this guy's got natural talent. He's doing a lot of things right. One of the things that I always look for is look where the feet are when they're throwing. This is one thing that Will Levis does very well. He's got a great base. He's not. You can get your legs too far apart. You're reaching it. If you've got your legs too far apart, your accuracy will suffer. Is your shoulder pointed to the target generally? Do they switch? So if they're going to read one, read two, and it's really easy to see when they're going from one read to another because the shoulder placement changes, and then they're delivering the ball. And are the feet planted? Because if your feet are planted and you're using your core and you're throwing the football, it will come out generally on time with accuracy and with the right kind of velocity. The minute that you're throwing off balance, or that you're too outstretched, or your arm's coming down here and it's taking too long to get it out, that's when you get yourself into problems. And these are really easy things to look for when you are watching quarterbacks. More often than not, you can watch one game of a guy and get a feeling that, you know what, this guy's got it. And I have to say, watching Anthony Richardson at the weekend, I don't know if you guys saw any of that game. Fantastic. And now all he's got to do is do it a few more times. You know, he's just got to show that he can do it consistently. But I have to say, I went into Anthony Richardson skeptical because he was getting all this publicity off a season way through 60 passes last year and had, you know, as many interceptions as touchdowns. And I came away thinking I might just have watched the number 1 overall pick. And I know that it's going to take weeks for us to get to anything like that. He has to show that against Kentucky on Saturday, and he has to show it against LSU, and it looked a bit crap. And then he's going to show it against Texas A&M and teams like that. And I think they play Georgia, don't they? Florida down the line. So he's going to have to show it against those teams. But I did you see the game, Robbie? I thought he just looked. He looked like he looked the part, didn't he?
Yeah. I was completely shocked. I mean, I kind of went in the same thing. Super skeptical. I mean, he runs the way, he scrambles well, he runs well. He's a big guy. He has a great touch on his passes. I mean, I just came away super impressed. I really liked the way Florida played too. I mean, overall, that was just a super fun game to watch. And yeah, he's got it. He's got something. And I'm interested to see him play against that, you know, Georgia specifically and that. And I know Georgia lost a bunch of defensive players, but they look good. They look like they didn't lose a step, and they got some guys who are going to be playing in the NFL. So I'm excited to see him play them.
I mean, Big Mike has asked, is he eligible? Yes, he is. He is draft eligible. And there is just so much like, and look, you can get carried away with players after one game, and he's going to have tougher tests, I think, than Utah, even though Utah was 7th ranked team in the country. But as Robbie said there, the way that he scrambles, he's got great arm strength, he's got great poise, he seems to understand the offense. Billy Napier has set up a very pro-style offense, so he's not operating in some like ridiculous Big 12 offense. It is actually the kind of thing that does translate somewhat. There's a lot of play action, there's a lot of misdirection, there's a lot of motion and movement at the line of scrimmage. And you see a player who is just, he's about 6'4", 240 pounds, runs like a gazelle. You know, you could imagine him in the NFL. You could just imagine him being a superstar. And then sort of the one thing that I always look for, which, you know, some people will say is right and some people may say is wrong, go and listen to his interviews. You know, can you imagine this man commanding a room of 53 grown men and coaches and being the face of your franchise? And I have to say, you do learn a lot listening to those interviews. There are quarterbacks. I'm not going to slang anybody off in this stream, but there are quarterbacks out there that are starting quarterbacks that are getting pushed up. And you listen to them speak and you think, I cannot imagine this guy as a franchise quarterback. I cannot imagine this guy being the strong voice in the locker room. Anthony Richardson spoke like a star. Like, he sounds as if he's going to be one of the big names. And look, again, carried away after one game, have to see what's going to happen. You never know what's going to come out between now and April.
I will say one more thing about him. He did go through his progressions really well. He looked at each receiver. When one wasn't there, he looked at the other. You know, he went through them very, very well. As a guy who didn't start much, and like you said, I went through like 60-some passes last year. He looks like he's got it. He's just got that it factor. So I'm excited to see how he plays the rest of the year.
I mean, did you see the 45-yard touchdown where he sort of dropped back and he's set and he's having a look and he's scanning the field and he sensed an opportunity to just sort of, he knew what the coverage was and he just take off.
Yep.
He just ran the length. He ran 40 yards downfield because he could see the space because there was nobody spying him. So as soon as the play had broken down, he'll get spied now, and we'll see if he can still create in the running game the way that he did there. I'm sure Georgia will have one of their super fast defensive backs in it or linebackers. Once he got into the open field, he made a guy miss on the goal line and got into the end zone. It was fantastic. I mean, it was a wow performance from Anthony Richardson. To look at some of the others, we've mentioned Will Levis, CJ Stroud. It was the most CJ Stroud performance you will see. It's exactly like he showed all of last year, in that his accuracy on the intermediate stuff is erratic as heck. And he's got a good arm and he can throw off point and he throws them off angle from different angles, and he can contort his body and throw with power and get it downfield. But there's just a lot of plays where he throws too high and he can't convert a third down, and he throws late or he throws behind. And I'm just not buying it. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I think the comparison for me is that he could be Justin Herbert or he could be Cordell Jones, who was also at Ohio State. He could be either of those guys. And that is a somewhat of a concern. And Bryce Young, Bryce Young had a really good first game against, I can't remember who they were playing now, Utah State. It's Utah State, and he, as I've talked about, he's tiny. He's like 5'10" and about 185 pounds. And I'm not sure I want to draft a quarterback in the first round like that, especially when there's someone like Anthony Richardson there, or Will Levis or Tyler Van Dyke, who also had a good start for Miami against Bethune-Cookman. So that's really it. But I mean, Adam, to bring you in on this, is it comforting, at least as a Seahawks fan, to think, we're not talking about please a quarterback emerge this year. We are sort of talking about, I think there's probably 5 legit players, Richardson, Levis, Van Dyke, Young, and Stroud, who will go in the first round next year if they all declare.
Yeah, I think there was just a super chat saying, I don't mind if we lose. I just don't want to see us get battered or something along those lines. And I think that's absolutely right. If we don't make the playoffs, which let's assume is going to be the case, if the record's 1-16, but they've put the quarterback in a position to win 5 or 6 of those games and he just hasn't got it done, that's going to be a lot better than sort of scrambling 4 or 5, 6, 7 wins that you kind of just stumble into, not play particularly well, but are the least bad team on the field. It's going to be very, very hard for me to analyze this season as successful or as a failure based on the record. I think there's going to be way more to it than that. And again, NFL players would probably scoff at that because their idea would be winning matters and losing doesn't. But I think there has to be more nuance and there has to be more depth and texture to how this team's going to play this year than that. Because when you're in the position and they constantly talk about this is our new 2011, well, okay, great. Well, then Russell came in 2012 and he picked up the baton and took them to wins. And I think that's all you can ask for, really. So knowing that sort of safety blanket, that there are hopefully 5 guys that can come in next year and elevate the team, as you say, just put me in a position this year where the team are giving the quarterback chances to win. And honestly, I'll be happier than I probably have been at the end of the last 3 or 4 seasons.
Yeah, I think it's very exciting. And it's always great to sort of see a player emerge. And I must admit, I was so excited watching Anthony Richardson the weekend. I even stayed up till 5 o'clock in the morning to watch a replay of Ohio State and Notre Dame because I just couldn't sleep. And I'm not getting too carried away. It probably sounds like I am, but I am excited that there's another quarterback to talk about. So Jeffrey had the super chat that Adam was talking about. I just hope we don't get embarrassed this season. I don't mind losing. Jeffrey, thank you for your support and for the super chat. And the snail, as he's put AJ Jefferson, but it means KJ Jefferson, who is the quarterback at Arkansas. Not for me, Snail. Not for me. I'm not seeing him as a true pro prospect. I think that he's the kind of guy who will go mid to late rounds. I've not seen a great deal of him that's made me want to sort of project him as a future Seahawk. I don't think I think he's a little bit overrated by fans in the media. So I'm not classifying him. Again, there are 5 for me. There is Richardson, Levis, Van Dyke, Stroud, and Young, and it may even be in that order. We'll see.
No Tanner McKee. No.
I enjoyed watching Tanner McKee against Oregon when I watched that live last year. And then I went and watched some of his other games, and I wasn't particularly impressed.
That's another big dude. He's like 6'7" or something. Yeah. He's
being older as well, because I think he went on a mission and has come back to Stanford. So I think he's a little bit older. But so is Will Levis. But, I think McKee's got a lot to prove. But Stanford have been crap for years. But then the Pac-12 has been crap for years. Sorry.
True. That's true.
And Oregon did a great job proving that at the weekend by rolling over and having the tummy tickled by Georgia, which was, that was the worst thing in a great weekend of college football, being stuck watching that sort of because that game was on at about 8:30 in the evening our time. So that's kind of like your prime time college football viewing. The game I was covering was just down the road from me. So I got back in time, sat down, great college football's back, Georgia, Oregon, let's go. Oh God, what's this? What is this? So it was awful. It was awful. So no more of that, please. I'm hoping that when I get back from Plymouth last week, I've seen that Kentucky and Florida has been on the TV, and I can watch a replay of that when I get back in, probably about 3 a.m. But I will be looking forward to watching that. And the only other thing I wanted to mention, guys, is something that's I didn't want to start with this because I don't know what people say, be negative again and stuff like this. It has really pained me to see the Seahawks relentlessly, mercilessly pushing the fact that they are wearing green jerseys next week on all of their social streams. I think as an accent, the bright green is fine. I think it does, with navy and neon green, it does look kind of mean. It looks mean in the same way that Baltimore's purple and black looks mean. You know what I mean? It kind of like, it doesn't look too bad. But when you're wearing all green, you just look like a giant lemon. And like a lemony lime concoction. And I'm not a big fan of them, but it's been everywhere. They've tweeted about 700 times about it tonight. I went on Facebook. The first thing I see is a Seahawks Facebook post saying, we're wearing green. And then it's just everywhere. I've just gone on Twitter now. The first tweet, the offense are practicing in neon green today because they're wearing it next week. Why are they wearing the green jerseys next week, Robbie?
I don't know. I thought those were meant for Thursday night games. I have no idea. Terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Adam?
Yeah, I think one for the kids is they look like a giant opal fruit, don't they? Or a fruit pastel or a wine gum.
What do they call them? Starburst, isn't it? Are they called now?
Starburst now, yeah, I think. The game's gone, mate. The game's gone when they're calling them that. Yeah, I mean, they're dreadful kits at the best of times. And I don't know, I think perhaps we're the wrong side of the Atlantic to appreciate this sort of jersey hustling that goes on. I think we both quite like our teams to wear one or two colours and keep the kit forever, as opposed to this sort of floating in new strips every now and again. But it's not for me, Jeff, I have to say.
Yeah, not for me. By the way, Robbie, do you have Starburst in America?
Yeah, we have Starburst.
Okay. Did it used to be called opal fruit or not?
That I don't think so, no.
Okay. It was called opal fruit in England, and then it was changed to Starburst. So I don't know. I was probably not interesting to anybody but me, but I just wondered whether whether the term opal fruit, which is a classic name, as Adam was, the game's gone because it's not called opal fruits anymore. And on that fantastic note, we will end the stream. Thank you for all of the super chats. Just a heads up that throughout the process, I am going to be doing videos. You will have seen there's a video about CJ Stroud on the channel. There's a video about Anthony Richardson on the channel. And I'm going to be doing a lot of those videos. I may do a Will Levis one this week as well, having watched all of his tape. And as far as I'm concerned, SeahawksDraftBlog.com is going to be the place to be for all of the quarterback draft chatter between now and the end of the year. So if you want to know an honest opinion from someone who's been doing this for a long time now, SeahawksDraftBlog.com, YouTube, on my channel, and the Rebuild podcast, if you want all of the latest analysis on the college quarterbacks. I think it's going to be really good between now and the end of the year going into the official draft season. So please do check that out. Subscribe to the channel and like the videos and spread the word. A big shout out as well to Adam's podcast, which is absolutely fantastic, which is done with Stu, and it is the Pedestrian Podcast. And where can they get it, Adam, when people want to hear it?
I'm told you can get it on all of your all good bookstores. So everywhere you get your podcasts. So Podbean, iTunes, Spotify, and we are recording tomorrow night as a bit of a pre-season, and I'm sure Rob will be joining us maybe even tomorrow. Who knows? But in the very near future.
Yeah, anytime. And always love going on. And Robbie, we are going to be having. If I haven't spoken to you about this off air, so I'm assuming that we're going to be having the usual reactions and conversations.
I'll be here.
And if there's any news, of course, we'll be quick to analyze it as always. So great to have you with us again, Robbie and Adam. Thank you for your time, and thank you for everybody for watching. As a reminder again, subscribe to the channel, like the video, SeahawksDraftBlog.com for all the latest news. Until next time, bye for now.